Good morning. This is Camel Kitty here. I'm just kind of working on this coloring page here. So I figured I would stream some of the progress in regards to this one here. Um, so just a little heads up of what I've been doing here. I mean, I colored the skin already and obviously the hair and stuff. Yesterday I noticed the skin was a little bit too dark, so I had grabbed some color pencils to help lighten it up, and I thought I had that all recorded and ready to go, but sometimes malfunctions happen. So I'm going to demonstrate today a lot like how I did with the face, because the face ended up way too dark. I'm not sure if I still have my um, scratch paper. Yep, okay, I have my scratch paper here still, of how dark it ended up. So it was this dark, and I was able to lighten it up quite a bit. So you can kind of tell a little bit between the contrast of A and B. It's much better when I was updated the contrast on it. So basically how I did that is I have these Crayola color pencils that I've got swatched here. So I used the very light almond and I think light golden, and I believe I used a little bit of medium almond to kind of get in some shading. And as you could tell, this is a grayscale coloring page, and this is from Jade Summer. And the book that we're using is Chibi Horror. I've got this binder that I keep a lot of my pictures in here, but this is Chibi Horror. Ugh, I can't even talk this morning. From Jade Summer is the coloring book that I'm using. This one was originally in a paperback book, and I just cut them out. I don't know if you can tell, but there's, yeah, I guess you can see a little bit that I cut them out of the book. I have various different formats. I have the digital format of a lot of these books. I also have the hardcover, and some of them, her earlier works or their earlier works, ended up being where you can get the book and you can get the digital for free with it. And they always come with two copies. So a lot of my secondary copies go to my daughter so she can play around with. But yeah, this is one of her books that she's got, and the a lot of the books that originally came with a black back, now they've been printing them in a white back. I'm part of the Facebook group with them, so it is kind of fun. Having a digital copy and having the pre-printed copy. But the pre-printed copy, you're on Amazon paper with that, and it's okay paper. It works for a lot of stuff, and that's fine. Personally, I like to reprint the work onto something else, and I've got, this is watercolor paper that I was planning on printing one of these pages on there, not necessarily Chibi Horror, but maybe something else, so I could use a different medium to it and still use the gosh, why can't I think right now? Use different mediums and use the outline work that they've worked so hard on. This right here, I just wanted to maybe work on the hair a little bit today to kind of get it to stand out. The marker that I used on this one, it's a water-based marker. This is from King Art. It's a, see if this will focus here, 102 brown. It's not really focusing very good. I don't know why my camera doesn't like to focus sometimes. But it's King Art dual tip water-based brushes that I've been using, are markers. It's got a brush tip and a bullet nib. The King Art is a love-hate relationship. I love how you can do the tip-to-tip blending and fading and all that stuff. I won't do that necessarily here today, but the it's nice when they're nice and fresh, they really go on nice and thick. These markers aren't as thick, so you do see some streaky lines, which I did try to go over it to prevent them But myself having dark brown hair, I like doing dark brown or blonde like my beautiful daughter. So I wanted to do this lady in brown. And let's see if we could do something to add some variation to her hair. I am thinking we might go with a something that really pulls the hair off the paper, so to speak. Might go with a deep almond. I'm thinking I'm leaning towards that because it is more of the reddish brown hue to it. We've got the very deep rose. That's actually not too bad either. Um, might do a little bit of the reddish deep or very deep rose, just to kind of get a little bit in there. Deep almond might be something to help blend it out or do a few other variations to it. But let's start with the very deep rose. These are Crayola uh, Colors of the World color pencils. So they generic, very basic color pencils, but I mean they actually go on pretty decent, especially over markers. The marker helps provide a nice base in regards to the um, coverage aspect of it. A nice thing about these is you don't need much, and I mean these will go a long way and still end up with getting you that depth that you're looking for when you're working on coloring pages here. So, color swatching is also very important because the barrel of the pencil doesn't always tell you exactly what it is. I'll give you another example. These are my Dirtwind Inktense pencils here, and this color swatch here is for this pencil. The paint and the color swatch is actually dramatically different when you're looking at them. So color swatching, highly, highly recommend it. And that's kind of where I ended up with the issue in regards to her face. I used a very dark marker, and at the time it was just kind of like, this should be fine enough. And then when I actually put it down and looked at it from afar, I'm like, oh, it's still a little, it's way too dark, way too dark. And then I tried to lighten it up with another alcohol marker, and it only made it worse. So, colored pencils help you fix a lot of those mistakes. But you know, color swatching obviously is the first step to try to prevent as much as you can. But we're colorists. We make mistakes. Things happen, and you just overcome and adapt. So let's work on the top of her bun here to see if we can get some of this to kind of pop out. So maybe kind of come in here a little bit. Here I can still see the lines of where the hair is at. So we're just gonna kind of go over them a little bit here. You really can't see too much of what I'm putting down here. This color really kind of blends in with the brown here. And that's fine. Let's see if I were to go over with the original very deep almond that I was looking at. No, very deep almond is what I was thinking of, excuse me. Let's see. Deep almond, where are you in my list? Here you are. These have got gold lettering, so sometimes it's kind of hard for me to see them. So let's go over this a little bit here. Yeah, this definitely pulls it off the page a little bit better. So this will help lighten it up in regards to the highlights and where the light hits the hair a little bit. So there's a lot of glare I could see in regards to my work here. So let's see if I can take my clipboard out of the way. It's got a pop socket on the back, so when I hold onto it, you know, it's easier to hold on to versus grabbing on a big old clipboard. So, let's see. So yeah, definitely made a bit of a difference in regards to the highlights and the hair. Let me see if I can bring it out a little bit more. Let's try some deep golden. See where that's at in my spread here. Okay. So we're gonna see if we can pop it out a little bit more. Maybe not quite that much. Not doing very well on that one. Let's brighten it up. Let's go with the medium golden. Sometimes you have to go to the extreme. There we go. To really get something to lift off the page, so to speak. And since I've already got layers of other color pencils, it's really not bringing it out as much in regards to it, but it is pulling some of it off the page here. So I'm gonna obviously work on my lighting, I think, in regards to how this glare factor is going. But we'll, this is work in progress. So, yeah, adding a little bit more deep golden there. So it really has added a lot of texture to her hair. Kind of brought it up a little bit more. So, as you can see, between contrast, it's looked very flat, and then that way it looks like it's got some highs and lows in it. So, just by going over with a little bit of color pencil, I'm going to leave this area down here the same, looking pretty good in regards to that. So, yeah, I think just that little bit right there really helped out on lifting it off the page here. So let's see if we can try this. Start with this pencil here on this swirl section here. See what that does. Oops, definitely brings it off off the page a little bit. And then we're gonna go back in with, I think, the deep almond. Still worked on a nice little blend. Kind of smooth it off a little bit. And make a good contrast between the original brown on the paper and the added highlight that we put on here for the medium golden that we added on there. And then the original color that we had, excuse me, very deep rose, to help kind of get that transition a little bit smoother. As far as how hard I'm pushing this on the paper, it's I guess about a medium to heavy pressure in regards to that. So let's try and see. As far as the coloring, I don't mind it too much, but I think the highlights are just a little bit too much. So I'm going to go over with this darker color to kind of tone it down a little bit, because it just seems like it really lifts it off the page, and it's basically like a white line through the middle of black. It just doesn't blend quite as well as I was hoping. See if we can blend some of this out a little bit. Maybe that'll make a difference. rose. As far as the direction that I'm using my colored pencil is to like how the hair would actually lay down to draw the eyes to where this is not individual strands of hair, but clumps of hair that are being pulled in here. I kind of liked this here. Yeah, I think that shows that she's got dark brown hair with the light hitting it, bringing in a little bit more depth to the whole piece. So I like that. But I liked how it blended better over here. So I think I'm going to kind of do like a reverse effect because I think doing the highlight was a little bit premature. But that's the front of the face anyway. So this stuff is going to be more recessed and light anyways. So let's go in with this deep rose and just kind of lay down some pigment here. And then that way, when we come in with the lighter color, it'll darken the lighter color and lighten the darker color, if that makes any sense to you. Okay. I'm going to do a touch of this because this still kind of helped out with some of the mid-lights in regards to the hair here. Definitely coming in a lot better. As you can see, add in this other section here with the low and the mid tones, it's making the swirl here blend a little bit more naturally. So that's pretty good. I'm satisfied with that for sure. Okay. And I think we will go in to do the lighter color next here after a quick drink. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna need to do too many highlights on here. I'm gonna just do a couple little pops of color in areas that I think would really pop out a little bit. And now since we've already got those other colors on there, this is not as bright as what it would have been if it was just straight up right there on the hair. So that gives it quite a bit more texture. So yeah, definitely liking that. I'm still kind of holding back, but I kind of want to get in with the swirl here and see if I want to get in there with some of that dark. But I think I'm going to hold off on that right now. I'm going to work on this side real quick. I'm going to do the dark again, the very deep rose, and just pop in some areas. Try not to block the camera. Right here it looks quite glossy. Let me try something with my lighting here. Let's see if by the no, that one didn't work very good. Okay. I want to have good lighting, but I want to try and reduce the glare. I should do some kind of filter. But anyways, so just get some of these darker areas in here. When I come back in with the mid-tone and the lighter tone, they blend together. You don't want to cover the whole area with your color pencils because it's going to fill in the tooth of the page. And what that means is, you know, the texture that actually pulls the pigment off the pencil. You're going to lose a lot of that, and that's a lot of where the shininess that you're getting right now is coming from, is because the tooth has been filled in or pushed flat, and also from the colored pencil. So, but yeah, if you get too much pigment on here, I mean, granted, it'll look a lot like the marker, only shiny when you had the light hit it just right. But it won't have any room to grab any pigment off of the colored pencil. Excuse me. So this is lighter tone here. I'm gonna try not to go too crazy on this one. Because again, this area is supposed to be more towards the back, more in shadow. Don't like how that part pops out too much. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit right here. Bring it in. There we go. Add a little bit over here. Probably the dark colored pencil looks like I got it ended up over there. Okay. In with the mid-tone a little bit. In between those streaks that I popped in there. And a little bit of the dark to kind of blend it up a little bit. Still, I think this is just too flat right here on the swirl. Add in this darker one that is fairly hesitant. Oh yeah, look at how much different that looks. Just adding in a little bit of that dark just around that little swish right there really makes it look like a croissant donut or something. But definitely brought in a little bit extra in regards to the texture here. Just kind of trying to get some of the glare off so you can see some of the variations. So yeah, much more contrast. Still looking a little bit flat over here. That is a little bit more in shadow, but I'm thinking I'm gonna pop in a little bit more of this lighter color. I didn't do a whole lot the first time, just a little bit, just kind of lift it off the page, and then that mid-tone I've been using to kind of feather it out. Let's see how that looks now. Oh yeah, much better. You can see definitely right there pops out a lot more. A little bit in here pops pops out a little bit more. So yeah. And that's how you can add a little extra texture and depth using colored pencils. So it's a nice little thing to do to I can't even talk right now. Add some depth in regards to your coloring pages. And that didn't take much. How long have we been working on this right now? Goodness gracious. 30 minutes, maybe? And that's not even, about 26 minutes. So not too much, really, was actually talking about and doing the coloring pencils in regards to one section. So, I mean, yes, coloring does take time, but when you're using the markers, you can cover an area really fast and get a solid or semi-solid base to it. And then once you come in with your colored pencils, then you can really smooth it off or pop it off the page. So, pretty nice stuff with the combination of colored pencils. There are a bunch of YouTubers out there that use the combination of colored pencils and markers together, and they do show how they contrast together and how they can blend. And it's really it's nice, it's neat to watch them do it, but it's even better, I think, is if you do it yourself. To do the colored pencils and the markers together, because you can really see how much of a change that makes in regards to a picture. Because yeah, I mean, she was pretty flat. I mean, her face is still fairly flat from when I was messing around with it yesterday, but a lot of it was just that the trying to get her face to a lighter situation. We could probably go in. We could use that maybe medium golden that we were using earlier, and maybe kind of bring in some low lights on her face a little bit. The grayscale already kind of helps a lot with it. Grayscale is kind of a fun one to work with, for sure. Very light pressure right here. Very light pressure. And it does help as far as the whole learning curve goes, where your highlights and your lowlights are at, and trying to get your depth in a piece. I did bring a little bit of a depth to it, not too much. There's a lot of colored pencil already on here. Kind of makes a difference. I kind of want to add some pink, but she's a vampire, so it's supposed to be pink. But yeah, I'm quite impressed with how well just adding a little extra color on here smoothed off the hair, and as you can tell that the streak effect that the marker provided is no longer there. It's just right now strictly the highlights and lowlights that the hair would naturally have. if it was put in a hairstyle similar to this. Excuse me. So, I hope that gives you a good idea of what a little bit of extra coloring pencil can do for your picture. Yeah, because you know when I put that at the beginning of the video, at the beginning, the brown was so flat looking that you couldn't see the grayscale coloring in it. So even if you didn't work on a grayscale, it can make quite a difference. Excuse me. In regards to your picture, even if it was non-grayscale. So I think each day I'll try to do a little bit more on here in regards to coloring a portion and then adding coloring pencils over the top to give depth in regards to the piece of artwork that I'm working on. We might do the dress tomorrow. And I won't color in the dress off camera like I did the hair and the face in the picture frame. Picture frame, I actually have not touched anything on that one. That's strictly just the grayscale to create that high and low, which is still pretty flat. If you look at it, it's still pretty flat. But you know, maybe another time we can pull out these Colors of the World picture or Crayola color pencils. Wow. And just kind of see what that might do to help bring it out. But these Colors of the World, I'm actually quite impressed. I mean, Crayola, I don't particularly care for their brand because it is a student grade brand. It's not necessarily fun to work with. Personally, I don't like the sound that color pencils or pencils have in regards to how it hits the paper and stuff. So that's something that kind of grades on me, is the sound, the scratching sound of pencil. So anytime you see me a pencil, I'm not generally going to use a pencil like this to write anything on. More or less, I will use an electronic or a mechanical pencil to do any kind of drawing, because the sound is different between that, and it's just, I don't know, if some people don't like nails on the chalkboard, pencil on paper is my nails on the chalkboard. So let me put these away here real quick, and then I'll go through my book that I have over here in regards to how I have my colored pencils organized. So, medium golden, medium golden, okay, here we go. Let me move her off to the side. So here's my book that I have here in regards to where I have all my colored pencils. Alright, coffee break. Alright, so, these are like I think these are a generic brand of color pencils, nothing too fancy. They work decent, um, but as you can tell, that there's few gradient in colors. I mean, you got decent blues, the greens are okay, um, yellows are okay, the pinks and reds are okay, but um, you are still kind of limited on to how you're going to blend some of them because the colors are either so close you couldn't tell much of a difference between them, or so drastic that even if you were to blend, the blending still might look a little bit choppy. Like you'd still have a huge line variable in between. So these are the color swatches. These are Joseph Hermut color pencils, or Herkmut, or I don't know, Hartmut. Anyways, they didn't have any names on them. They didn't have any number system like Copic does, or even if you're looking at this one here, this is Eggshell, but this is a Spectrum Noir marker, so they all have like coding systems and stuff, which is nice to have. But if you're looking for a specific color and you got color swatches, like, well, I need chartreuse, I don't know, whatever, there's no name on it, or color number that you're looking for to be able to find the appropriate color that you're looking for to excuse me, be able to get the blend that you're looking for. So, these pencils here are by Derwent Metallic. They're not really metallic. I don't know why I guess they're similar for metallic, but not exactly metallic. So, it's rose gold, pink, purple, ice blue, green, pewter. They're not even metallic like names. To some degree, yes, but they're nice. That they do get a little bit of a shine in regards to them. Sorry, I can't see that very well. They do get a little bit of a shine, but it's not like as smooth as you would think. And then these ones are chalk pastels. These I didn't have to swatch because they're true to the colors that they are, so they were nothing. And I don't use them too much, anyways. Because chalk pastel is just like chalk on a sidewalk. It just rubs off or washes away, so it's nothing that's gonna stick around too much, anyways. These are Derwent metallic water, which again they're not metallic per se, but they do have some nice color variations in there. And nice thing about water pencils is that you can blend them out. You can do an easier gradient with them, depending on the size of the area that you're working on. The larger the area, the more challenging it is. You have to, with water, you got to keep the paper wet longer. But it's a learning curve. You'll get used to it if you work with them more. These are all Faber-Castell watercolor pencils as well. You can tell by the brush that's on there. So I honestly think that these ones are more of a generic brand. I know they say Faber-Castell, but they don't feel as high grade. Maybe they're student variations of them, but they don't feel, when you're using them, they don't feel that enjoyable to use. They still work great, don't get me wrong. It's just not, it's a very hard tip to work with. So it'd be kind of like working with a a very hard leaded pencil, where if you even though you're just sitting there and really pushing on the paper to get the lead off of that pencil, you still end up with a very faint line. Excuse me, because it's not very it doesn't drop much pigment onto the paper as you use it. So but they're nice. I've used these for various things. I did a rose with it at one point, and did a base layer with just regular watercolor, and then used these to help get the highlights and lowlights and get the depth in there. I did also wet them down and stuff. Excuse me. So it was nice to use these over the top of watercolor, the same thing that you do with the colored pencil over marker to get that depth. So it's a nice little adjustment. So, let's see. These are Art and Fly. Drinking my coffee and it's still not helping. So, our Art and Fly color pencils here. This is a color swatch for all of these colors. And quite a soft colored pencil. I haven't had any problems with them breaking, and I mean, as you can tell, a lot of them are still pretty new, but I have sharpened a few of them a couple of times. So, but as far as like when you sharpen soft or oil-based pencils, which I believe these are oil-based colored pencils, when you sharpen them, they tend to break really easy. So if you are sharpening it and then all of a sudden your lead falls into the sharpener through your pigment, then you're just, gotta start over again. So these actually haven't had much problem with them. I do like these ones. These Art and Flies. This is 36 set, I believe. I have looked at the larger sets, and relatively speaking, they're not too expensive. So I do recommend, if you're looking for a soft color pencil, to use these Art and Fly color pencils. They lay down really nice, and they blend really good. I don't have any swatches of blending, but they do blend very nice, so I do recommend these Art and Fly colored pencils. And back to my Crayola ones over here, which is what I was working on earlier. These are also Faber-Castell colored pencils. I could tell the difference between these ones and the ones on the earlier page. These ones are a little bit softer and do lay down more pigment when you're using these ones on the paper, so I think these are a little bit higher grade than the other ones, and that's why I was thinking that the other ones are more of a generic or maybe an off-brand that they're using Faber-Castell's name just to get people to buy them, People know Faber-Castell, so they're going to buy those products. So if they see another Faber-Castell brand out there, they're going to buy it even though it may not be a legitimate brand. And that's what I think those other ones are. They work fine, don't get me wrong. They're just not as good. And these are my limited stash of Derwent Inktense pencils. I love these guys. And I'll tell you why, because the color on them goes down really well when you're using them. When you wet them, the ink stays. It's just like India ink. It does not go anywhere once you re-wet it and stuff. So it's really good medium to work with. The colored pencils, if you don't blend it out 100%, you'll still have bits of pigment in there in the paper, and if you re-wet it, it will reactivate just what has not been already activated. Excuse me. So you'll end up with them bleeding, even though they say that they don't bleed. They don't, with the exception is if there is unblended or wet used pigment on the paper. So these half swatches here. The lower part here is what's been wet, and the other top part isn't. So if I were to wet this, I would probably still get a smidge bit of pigment off of it, but not as much as I would on the top one because that's never been wet down. They've got Inktense blocks, which can actually lay down the color better and be more permanent because if you it's just like watercolor. If you have watercolor in a pan, you could drop water in there and then you would just pick up what amount of pigment that you want off of it and then put it on your paper. Once it's dry, it's done. And the same thing with Inktense blocks. If you just get your brush on your block and you wipe up the ink that you want off of it and then put it on your paper, once that's dry off the paper, it won't go anywhere. And they also have pans too. One of these days I would like to get the blocks or the pans, one or the other, to work with them, but not quite in the budget yet because these ones are kind of expensive. It took a bit to get these ones in the first place, but very fun to work with. And the Crayola that you've already seen, quite the selection in regards to those. And I do enjoy that the Crayola ones have such a wide variety in browns. There's not a lot of color pencils out there that have a lot of wide variety as far as skin tones and stuff goes. One more thing I wanted to go over with you real quick. Is this one here. Another Derwent. These are not the Inktense at all. These are regular color pencils. Color Soft, which is a lot like those Art and Fly color pencils. They even kind of look that way too. It's kind of like Art and Fly. Excuse me. Use the same manufacturing process that Derwent does, but maybe use a slightly different variation in certain ingredients in the lead-based colored pencil style, and that's why they make them Art Fly. But these ones go down quite well as well. These are oil-based color pencils, and they do blend well, but very limited supply or selection as far as skin tones go. I'm sorry, but there is a lot more to skin tone than just 5 or 6 colors. These color pencils do break quite easily. Right here is one of my color pencils that was original to the box here. It's considerably shorter, and I've only actually used it 2 or 3 times on very small areas, but see how much shorter it is with the other ones. It's just because each time I sharpened it, it would break. And so it's just, I guess, one of those things you have to, work with smaller color pencils, or the softer color pencils. But it is kind of annoying, and sometimes when you drop color pencils, it can break inside, and you won't actually see it broken until you end up with the lead in your hand or the pigment in your hand. So, yeah, I enjoy these ones too. I know this is kind of sad that they're basically a full set, and I haven't used it that often. Definitely planning on using these more. They are, from what little I have used them, I have enjoyed them, so I am quite impressed with these color pencils as well. So that is my colored pencil stash, so to speak, that I have. I do have a bunch of other markers, alcoholic markers. I've also got variables of ink bottles and stuff like that. So one of these days, we'll kind of go over, different art medium and stuff, and that's the plan, to go over other art mediums But right now with this page, we're just going to do the marker and color pencil combination to, practice depth and see how much of a difference a few extra minutes in coloring with a color pencil over marker, how much difference that will work. Work on getting depth into your picture and variations to make it more attractive to look at, more appeasing to look at. So, I think that's what I've got all for you today. Yep, tomorrow I'm planning on work on her dress. We'll do the full process during stream, or at least as much as we can. My streaming in the morning is quite limited. I'm going to try to stick to around about an hour, give or take, for the streaming process during our coloring sessions. Maybe in the future do them longer. I know with my little one, my daughter, she wants to do some gaming and stuff, so that's the plan on the weekends, is to try to do some gaming periodically here with her on Twitch. Yeah, change it up a little bit here each time we go on here. I do plan on doing some digital art. I have an iPad, which I'll plug in here real quick. I have an iPad that I can use to show you some digital art. As you can see, like with the opening stream, there was some digital art, and the closing stream you'll see some digital art work done, and play around with that. So I thank you for coming and watching, and I hope to see you in the next stream. I know my schedule is not listed on Twitch yet, just because I'm just trying to get into good habits and getting streaming done and putting out some content here. So if you have any suggestions or anything, please feel free to give me a shout out. I'll be happy to take a look and read anything on that. I also have a YouTube channel as well, Camel Kitty 411. You can look me up there, do a shout out, and any of my videos that I have on there, I get those messages so I can take a look and see what you got for me, and then respond back to you. So I hope you enjoyed this short stream, and you have a great day, and you be safe. Thank you.